the warm and inviting offices of mom-and-pop nonprofit corp, where they work tirelessly every day to foster just a general sense of well-being in their community and occasionally give old people puppies to hold on the weekends. Now, it's come to my attention that despite the vast changes we made to the office to accommodate an even spread of diversity, the reduction of anything remotely phallic that could be seen as promotion of toxic masculinity, yes, that included Gerald's prize cactus. Stop sniveling, Gerald, it's only a plant. We also adjusted the furniture to allow easy access for dwarfs, people without limbs, and people who are, through no fault of their own, afraid of cupboards. We have given you all a fluffy lie-down room where you can spend time out of your workday just being. We've provided safe spaces where you can eat a sandwich without fear of having to engage in any conversation even remotely challenging. And every third Thursday in the month, all the senior executives dress up as animals and perform the less triggering scenes from the movie Babe. However, some of the employees here have still been writing to Human Resources and demanding even further changes to this inviting workspace that is so antithetical to the real world that I just presume all of you spend your commutes in fetal positions or leaping in the air and shouting fire every time a car horn honks. So I thought at this very friendly, cuddly, but not in a way that in any way invades your personal space or objectifies you sexually, open forum, I thought I could address a few of them. Now, the first one I'm very confused by, so maybe someone can help. Someone requested the banning of any playing or referencing to the late 80s, early 90s musical act Wilson Phillips. Who would care to explain? All right, Barandina, sure, have a go.
Well, me and some of the other agender, bigender, gender fluid, gender non-conforming, gender questioning, gender variant, intersex, non-binary, pangender, transmasculine, and two-spirit members of this work collective feel very strongly that not only do they display blatant nepotism, but they're racist.
Racist?
Well, one of the band members is called China Phillips. I mean, she isn't even Asian.
Yes, it's her name.
Look, I don't know how you all did it in the early 90s, but nowadays we prefer not to label people based on their race or country of origin, especially when she is so clearly Caucasian.
No, I mean it's her name, and it's spelled Chynna.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. Well, look, these things are easily Googleable.
Oh, I don't use Google.
Wait, you don't use Google?
Yes, they promote white, cis-male, heteronormative, greed-fueled agenda of capitalism and pornography while giving literally no money of their vast wealth to lesbian Dutch cheese manufacturers who are often discriminated against because their cheddar tastes a little funny.
Right, okay, well, thank you for that. Next item on the list is... the milk is too white.
Meanwhile, across the road at big monolithic mega-corporate money bank...
Right, kick them all out of the orphanage. I need more space for my son's hats. If the children cry at all, give them a signed photograph of Kanye West or something. Then spin the whole thing to the media, which we own anyway, as a relocation program where the parentless, welfare-scrounging children are being moved to big, fluffy, sustainable housing in Idaho or some such. But really, take the children and put them to work in our asbestos factory, and only feed them if they won't stop coughing. Then, if the news breaks from one of the socialist news sources that the president knew anything about it, it really doesn't matter, as he seemingly could shoot a Muslim live on stage with a crossbow while using the N-word and shitting on a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and nobody would say a goddamn thing except a few whiny bots on Twitter and the rest of the entire world. But fuck them, what do they know?
Meanwhile, in the after-movie diner...
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
All right, well, here it is, our 8th anniversary special, and it's quite enormous to look back over the last 8 years and think, my goodness, what a lot of drivel, just what a lot of my mouth flapping about like a loose and landed fish. I mean, what is the point? However, you have, my dear listeners and followers, come this far, so why don't we just keep this train a-rolling, as they say. Yes, 8 long years. But I have to say, I love it. I do love it. It's fantastic. And the movies I've got to see, the people I've got to meet, the guests I've got to have on the show, and getting to hang out regularly, although I joke with him all the time, getting to hang out every single week with Jim Wallace is an absolute pleasure. Wouldn't change that for the world. So thanks everybody for continuing on this journey with us here at the After Movie Diner for 8 years, and thanks to everybody who filled out our 8th anniversary form, which basically we had asked people on social media to fill out a form to let us know what film they wanted us to cover on this episode, and also tell us a couple of other things about the show that they like or that they would like us to bring back. Things like the comedy sketches, unique songs about the movies, etc. And also to put comments, suggestions, and feedback for the show. So here's a few of those. Chris Leatherman said, here's to 8 more years of unpredictable and subversive, disturbing fun. The disturbing thing disturbs me, because are we ever disturbing? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we are disturbing, but okay, thank you so much, Chris, for listening, and also for thinking that we are subversive and disturbing. I like that. I kind of want that to be our tagline. The After Movie Diner. It's a podcast about films that's subversive and disturbing. Awesome. Anyway, Andrew Morris said, add in some ukulele for good measure too, and keep up the good work. So he wants some ukulele in the show. Hopefully, he will be happy with what happens at the end of the show, because a lot of people did ask for a unique new song about the movie. I haven't done that in a long time, so I'll be doing that on this show. So when the conversation finishes, keep listening, because there'll be a song. Anyway, Snoog, from the better known to the world as Chris Armstrong, from the awesome Chris and Chris Show, which you can find on iTunes and all of the good places where podcasts are, formerly WAFU, for anyone who's been following the show for a long time. He writes, happy birthday to the diner. Here's to 8 more years of top quality podcasting shenanigans and tomfoolery. Over the years, it has reminded me many times of Jacques Tati's Mon Oncle, which of course it has. Anyone who doesn't get that joke needs to follow the After Movie Diner group and go check out the Twatty Critic on YouTube. And then Dave Brighton says, waiting on the highlights reel. And I don't understand what that means. So please, Dave Brighton, send us an email, especially as he wants the mailbag jingle to be played. So send us an email. I will play the mailbag jingle and explain to us what you mean about waiting on the highlights reel. Maybe he means that he wants some weird compendium show of the last 8 years. But to be honest, in order to do that, I would need everyone to go listen to all the shows and then tell me which bit was their favorite bit. Otherwise, he's asking me to listen to 8 years worth of podcasting and for me to laboriously edit out my favorite bits and put them all into a show. I'm not sure that anyone has time for that. But if you have time for that, email me and I'll let you do it instead. Someone who didn't leave their name said, maybe you can try a trivia day. Nothing too complex, because obviously we're all quite dumb, but maybe simple questions about 80s to 2000 movie favorites. Give a hint with a picture from the scene, and then the next day post the answer and shout out winners. Would anyone be interested in doing After Movie Diner trivia? It would be a lot of work on my end if all it meant was that like 3 people were like trying to answer the questions. I would happily do a trivia day if the response
to this podcast is resounding, yes, please do trivia. But I would most likely just do it in the After Movie Diner and Dr. Action Facebook group, and probably just on an ad hoc basis. There was someone else who wrote, who was this? Craig Everett Earl said, you create a wheel of celebrities and spin it, and then John has to do an impression. Don't know where the hell that came from, but just thought of that, so why not? Well, Craig, maybe I would do that, but I feel like, considering how limited my ability at impressions is, that segment, whatever that segment would sound or look like, would probably be limited at best. Pete Osmond, who drew the fantastic cartoons and graphics that accompany both the After Movie Diner and Dr. Action. Check out Peter Pedro Osmond's illustrations on Facebook for anyone who is looking for fantastic illustrations and artwork for their albums, for their podcasts, for posters, movies, whatever. Please check him out. He says, congrats on 8 years of hard as hell work. Here's to another 8 years. Thanks so much, Peter, for recognizing. That's great. Then someone else who didn't leave their name, so I can't credit them, says, been a fan for 6.5 years and no sign of stopping. Always a podcast highlight when a show drops. Here's to many more. Keep them coming. Thanks ever so much, Anonymous, for that one. Lastly, Mike Ranger says, stay golden. So thank you to everyone who wrote in and filled out that form. Just lovely to get feedback, and lots of birthday wishes as well on Twitter and Facebook today for our 8th anniversary. That's fantastic as well. Thank you so much. We have a big shout out to a new Patreon supporter, Chip Thompson, who is host and writer for How I Ripped Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a podcast where they read through a heavily plagiarized script from Buffy comic and TV series written by the 14-year-old Chip Thompson, which is brought to life with their amazing acting. Check out How I Ripped Buffy the Vampire Slayer on all platforms where podcasts can be found. It's a fantastic show. Chip Thompson, thank you so much for becoming a Patreon supporter, and we are very, very happy to have you amongst the ranks of our listeners. So that's fantastic. If you want to support the After Movie Diner, as always, you can head over to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/After Movie Diner and do what Chip done and support the show. It would be truly fantastic. And don't forget to listen to How I Ripped Buffy the Vampire Slayer. A great, great show. All right, so we have a quick commercial because we have to pay for this gubbins, and then the new episode and the 8th anniversary episode of the After Movie Diner.
The After Movie Diner with John Cross will return right after this. You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, John Cross.
All righty then. Let's open these very delightful pleatherette menus.
Wait, is that the official name?
No, I'm just calling it pleatherette.
Did you make it up?
This is always the problem when they've wiped the table, but then they have the...
Thank you very much.
Thank you. But then they have the, like,
Sticky.
pleather thing. It sticks to the thing.
So pleather because it's plastic leather?
That's what I'm saying, yes.
And you didn't make that up?
No. Hello, and welcome to the very exciting...
Hello.
8th anniversary episode of the After Movie Diner.
I like that there's a function where if my voice happens, you, like, cut out. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like an automatic audio thing. It's great. Let's try it again. Go on. Do your thing. Do your introduction. Do your thing. Do your thing.
Hello and welcome to the very exciting 8th anniversary
After Movie Diner. See, it happened again. It's amazing. It's like instinct. It's like podcasting instinct.
It's like I'm sat opposite a weirdly faced twat.
Well, it's not like. You are.
Yeah.
That is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, we're here.
Just admiring a podcasting gift. There it is again. Just instantly shut down.
Yeah.
So that the listener doesn't have to go through the tedium of two voices talking at once. I'm lost in admiration here, mate. I'd never noticed it before.
And also so that I
Good,
can...
thank you, mate.
Hey, good.
Yeah.
Drinks to begin, or you find that?
Could I get a
I'm
cup
good
of...
with water, Chief. So yeah.
Could I get a cup of English breakfast tea? With milk.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, it's just easier if I can be quiet when you start talking, because then that way I can edit you out. I can edit you out.
You do that, don't you? I bet you do that.
I actually don't. It takes too much effort to edit you out because you're all over the place, like a spilt portable latrine.
How tempted are you to just edit the podcast so it's just you, and occasionally, and then editing me going, good point. Do you know what I mean? Or me laughing at the jokes.
No, I mean honestly, I never feel that way.
Okay.
No,
Really?
I never feel that way. No, I never feel that way because that would be horribly self-aggrandizing.
Yeah, or just an accurate gauge of like what the listeners
I mean, it
want.
would make a better show.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That goes without saying.
If you was just able to like
That goes
remove
without
my
saying.
voice,
Yeah.
because for listeners, like Rob Ross, sensible
Are
opinions.
you still talking?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Wow.
All right, then you talk.
Anyway, it's the 8th anniversary special episode of the After Movie Diner, and
I've already ruined it.
but Jim has already ruined it. And why is it special, you ask? I'm assuming you're asking. Well, obviously it's special because it's the 8th
Thank you very much.
anniversary.
You're welcome. Come back in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Great,
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
Why is it special? Why is it special, mate? Tell us why it's special.
Well. It's special because it's the 8th anniversary edition. But
So there's that.
so there is that.
So let
That's
me ask you a question.
Number one on the list of special things.
Okay.
That's
What else
one
is
of
special
them.
about it?
What else is special about it is that I created a poll, if you will, to take the pulse, to take the temperature, to put
The internet's temperature.
Yeah, to put the metaphorical thermometer up the
Internet backside.
behind
Yeah.
of the internet several.
Yeah.
And they spat back out what film we will be covering this week on the show. So that's another reason why it's special. Prong 2. Special prong number 2.
Special prong number 2.
Why? Do you have a third reason why it's special?
No. I was just going to ask if so. Is it the 25th of July that's the special date, or it's like mid-July, or what?
25th of July is the...
It was episode 1,
The
officially.
episode 1 of the After Movie
Which
Diner.
was what?
Which was what? What do you mean?
Well, what happened on episode 1? What did you cover?
John, your brother,
Yeah.
and I talked about Woody Allen, horrible bosses, and something else.
Oh, I do vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd seen horrible bosses on a plane or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I remember stuff. Well, that's it. How long was it? Just out of interest.
What?
The podcast, was it like 4 hours or
I think it was
20 minutes?
I think it was an hour and a half.
Oh, good solid standard diet time.
Yeah, I don't
About
think
half an hour too long.
Yeah, yeah. About 45 minutes even.
Yeah.
You know, it's there. It's in that sweet spot between being
between
being
listenable and not.
too long. No, the sweet spot between being too long
Yeah.
but still tolerable.
Yeah,
And just slightly overlong.
yeah.
We hit the sweet spot between two time
Are
distances.
you sure? Because I feel like you almost always hit the just slightly too long, like bang on the nose every time.
Well, there is that. There is that. There is that. There is that.
And 8 years later,
Yes.
you get the less good brother, like
Yeah.
smaller box office,
Yeah.
lower box office brother.
Yes. Yep. Sorry. Bob.
And same neighbourhood.
Boy,
though. Same
have you
neighbourhood.
hit the proverbial nail on the head with the you being the less popular brother.
And like it's financially.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you compare
Yeah.
the things that I have done,
Yeah.
that I have created,
Yeah.
and how much money they've made,
Yeah.
versus the things that John has created and how
Yes.
much money they've made,
Yes.
I am
Yes.
lower box office.
Oh, that, yes, straight
It's
away.
a financial and accounting fact.
Yes. Although I wonder, in general, what if your box office is low, my box office is non-existent.
Well, your box office is pretty high.
Well, how is my
Well,
box office?
okay,
pretty high?
Patreon mugs and t-shirts.
Patreon mugs and.
I'm not
t-shirts.
talking about like how much you spent, right?
Right.
This isn't gross or
Right.
net or whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
I'm saying how
I'm glad
much
you've got a grasp on that.
how much money
You know, Mr.
you
Businessman.
how much
We're
money
like, I don't know
you
what net and gross is, but let's just go with it either way.
No, but I mean, right?
Next one.
How much you and your talent how much
I can't believe
finance,
you just used the word talent. And
how much
me in this.
finance and money they have generated is more than I have.
I mean, if you put it together over time, my scraps of pennies. Yeah, you're right.
Definitely outweigh my scraps and pennies. Because all I've ever done that's made money is the poetry book, and that made almost nothing, shockingly enough.
Anyway, from bemoaning our general failure to
So I was
celebrating our
celebrating
independence.
how
So
much
anyway,
money you've made and you are box office
You've
mate.
derailed it on your
I have,
narcissistic attempt to elaborate on your shortcomings.
What, that was some good. No, I mean, I'm in awe of that sentence. It was accurate.
Yeah.
And
I'm also having a real difficult time because on one hand, they have a baked potato, which I'm really enthused about, but they also have disco fries, which I haven't had in a long time. However, they don't have anything that would satisfactorily go with either. So I might just have the baked potato.
that's fine. If you want to do that.
Because I don't feel like having a big heavy burger. So right, baked potato it is then. A stuffed baked potato for me then. That's what I'm having. What was I saying?
I'm having Gracie's wrap.
A Gracie's wrap. Oh yeah, we should say what diner we're in. We're in the Gracie
Gracie
Muse Diner. Which is a diner.
Hello, mate. I'm gonna have the Gracie's wrap, please.
Okay. Can I get the stuffed baked potato?
Okay.
Could I also get like mayonnaise and butter with that?
No sour cream? Usually sour cream.
It comes with sour cream or?
Me, for those potatoes, usually use sour cream, but you want mayonnaise, I'll bring you mayonnaise.
He's saying you're weird for not wanting sour cream.
Yeah, I'll have mayonnaise instead of the sour cream.
Okay.
And lots of butter on the potato.
No, be on the side, you put it how much you like.
And cheese and bacon, right?
It automatically comes with cheese
Great,
and bacon.
awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Thanks very much, mate. Cheers.
So Gracie Muse is a diner which, well, I used to live on the Upper East Side when...
Long time ago, when it was a good neighbourhood.
Yeah, when Jim first came to Manhattan. This was one of my semi-regular haunts, or semi-regular haunts. I don't know why I slipped into American. Semi.
Because you do. I found myself. Every now and then I find myself saying words, American.
Wait,
And it
every
stirs
now and then you find yourself saying words. The Jim Wallace story. We were going to go to the Green Kitchen Diner, which is where the diner for Jim and I began.
Yeah.
Because it was the first diner where we ever recorded, you and I think.
Is it?
I think so.
I thought that you said because I was thinking about this. I think you said the first diner episode we ever did together was Pacific Rim.
No, that wasn't the first one we ever did.
Did we watch a movie together and then go to a diner?
Well, no, the first episode of the diner we ever did was back on episode 10. The first time we ever did it,
but I came
where
over
we
when we
went to a
talked about The
diner.
Walking Dead or whatever.
Was Pacific Rim really the first one?
I think so.
Because if so, Pacific Rim was the second anniversary, I think, of the show. It was an anniversary episode.
Okay.
Anyway,
I ruined that. The point is,
you're
I
ruining
ruined
everything.
it.
I really haven't. I'm limping through this with 10 minutes in. I still haven't got out everything I wanted to say.
I'm sorry. I know
It's
I
all right.
ruin everything.
You do ruin
how about
everything.
this? How about I very quietly sit here and drink my tea?
Anyway, so, but this was a semi-regular haunt. We were going to eat at the Green Kitchen, which I believe was either, if not one of Took First diners that we ate in on the Upper East Side when we did a podcast together. However, the Green Kitchen is not displaying their rating letter, their alphabetized City of
Which
New
is
York
never something I
health
used to
and
worry
safety.
about, but now if they don't have an A, I won't either because it'll be horrible and indigestion. Because I've seen the reports of what could happen in New York restaurants and they don't have A grades and it's fucking nasty. And they wouldn't even display there. So when I asked them, they said, "Oh, it's pending," and you're not supposed to not display anything. That's highly illegal.
Jim strode in there and asked some gentleman who was on the night shift and barely speaks English about the letter grade. And anyway, so we marched out of there. We came to Gracie Muse. That's where we.
He marched out. I slunk.
That's where we find ourselves. I'm not happy about it. I'm going to continue going on. And as I was...
Show must go on, mate. This is the level of professionalism that people who listen to the diner have come to expect.
Yes. And as I explained before, we put out to poll.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Try and put your tea over there or something. No, just so that it's not.
Why don't
right
I just go and stand outside?
No, I'm just saying, just don't put your tea right by the microphone. We put out a poll to see what movie we should watch. It came down to the wire.
It was a straight time.
Straight
up and down time.
Between the New York Ripper and Brainscan, starring Edward Furlong.
He's very hot.
He's very
hot right now.
Because it has been revealed that Edward Furlong is in the new Terminator movie, reprising his role of John Connor as if anyone cared.
People do.
But people do.
Hot.
He's very hot on social media right now. So we swung the proverbial pendulum over the two movies, and down it came, whence upon Brainscan.
Because we are nothing if not shameless populists.
Right.
Endlessly chasing after...
Jim's theory on why we should do Brainscan is apparently it's very hot on social media right now to talk about Edward Furlong. The trouble is by the time this episode goes out, which will be in 6 days,
Stone Cold Furlong.
Nobody will care.
Nobody will care.
Because do you know what the social media news cycle is now? It's about
4 seconds.
Yeah, it's about 4 minutes. Yeah. Edward Furlong, like the only way to have release this podcast at peak Furlong timing would have been probably about 26 hours ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like us.
Yeah.
But that's the point, right?
Right.
Why change?
Yes.
Why change what we're not good at?
Also, I do believe your brother, John of the Wallace, previously mentioned, did want us to talk about Brainscan.
And he was on the first episode.
He was on the first ever episode.
So we're honouring
his request.
If not in spirit, by me being good at this, like he is, we are honouring his requests.
Right. True. We are honouring his...
That's nice. That's good. I feel good about that.
Do you feel better now?
I do.
Do you feel personally better about yourself?
I do.
Good.
I was a little bit ashamed about
the entire process of doing this podcast for 8 years has been to finally make you feel good about yourself. Nothing whatsoever to try and draw attention towards me and my massive talent. However...
Well, that just happened naturally.
That just happened naturally.
Your massive talent.
My massive talent.
Shines without any help.
Well, it's because I polish it. I polish my massive talent with a chamois rag. That's
chamois rag of constant exposure.
Yeah, that's kind of a gross image right there. Me polishing my, let's just say, knob of talent with a chamois.
One nub.
Nub.
It's more of a nub, isn't it? A nubbin.
Yeah.
A third nipple of talent.
Yeah. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It's a third nipple of talent.
It's like, what's this for?
And
I don't know.
I've waxed it, I've polished it, and I've put it out over the last 8 years.
The third nipple that is your talent.
Over the last 8 years, in 289 parts, I think.
Yeah, into a slightly sore nipple.
You've
polished it so much.
Highly sore nipple if it's been polished and waxed 289 times.
Is that what it is? Is this episode number 289?
Well, the last one that went up, which was the other day, what was that episode?
Oh, Crawl.
That was Crawl. That was 288.
All right, cool. So what are you going to do something with 300, or will that be beating the anniversary thing over the head?
I don't know. Let's see how people...
Well, the rate you're going, 11 episodes time will be next fucking year, so yeah, that could work.
Why you say that? We've been really regular this year.
Well, I suppose we have, yeah. Well, 3 months seems like... So let's say it's once a week-ish. That's 3 months.
Right.
Asking people to, be a little bit excited about number 300.
Well, let's see how this one goes. You know...
Yeah, will we even get that far?
Will we even?
That is a fair point.
It's true. I might want to squeeze 290 and then just cut you loose.
I can't say I blame you.
So Brainscan.
Brainscan.
Which is the story of the lead singer of Doctor and the Medics crawling out of a TV to try and wake up a damn near comatose Edward Furlong. Who has
Edward
been...
two-speed Furlong, which is I'm sleepy and I'm shouting. That is it. Those are his 2 speeds.
And I'm doing neither of them convincingly.
No.
Edward,
no, being convincing is not his strong suit.
Edward, I don't like this lamp anymore. Furlong.
I like that they had 4 shots of him beating up the lamp.
Yeah.
Like one shot was enough for me to go, why is he beating up the lamp?
Crazy rap.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Look at that right there.
Cool. It's just
And
great.
a baked
Butter
potato.
and
Yeah,
mayonnaise.
mayonnaise. Yeah, you can say that disdainfully. I agree with you. That was fantastic. He was like butter and mayonnaise. Why must this filthy pig dog have mayonnaise on his baked potato?
You are a filthy pig dog.
I am a filthy pig
Thank
dog.
you very
I
much.
quite agree. Thank you so much, sir. This gringo piece of shit with his filthy mayonnaise. Well, I didn't expect it to. Anyway. Like, how am I meant to put butter on the baked potato if it's underneath what they've stuffed the baked potato with? That wrap is enormous.
It's enormous. It's mostly like cold stuff and then hot bacon and cheese. It's really weird.
Well, hello and welcome to We've Ordered Some Really Weird Things.
Which is, to be fair, usually what we do.
Yeah, it could be just the name of this show, really. Two fools go to a diner and order really weird things. People love it, though. People are all over it. People are all over us ordering our dinners. Do you know that, dude? They love it. It's their favourite part of the show. Once we start talking about the movie, they switch off.
You know what I don't get about this movie is, how was this written by the same guy that wrote Seven
Well, no, I can explain that.
and Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, which
No.
are two very fine scripts?
Right, I can explain that.
Right.
First of all, the original idea behind the script, and potentially even the script, was a dissection and almost condemnation of the youth culture of the 90s. I'm going to presume
No,
this
because
came out in the
because the
90s.
story was someone else.
No, but I'm saying he wrote it. I'm
No,
telling
it
you
says
right now.
story by some
Alright.
bloke.
I don't care about the story by it. I'm telling
Yeah,
you,
but
like,
but story by usually means
Oh.
either the concept or, more accurately, the first script, and then he came in and rewrote it, presumably pretty heavily. I just found it
well,
was
yeah, right.
it wasn't
Can I
a
explain
bitching
something?
script that was then ruined.
But let me explain.
Okay,
If I don't expand on my theory,
right. How can I? Yeah,
I
right,
can't answer your question.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll shut my face.
Well, because there's two things, right?
Right,
Right.
right,
Either
right.
the initial intention of this movie, whether it was by the person who wrote the story or Andrew Kevin Walker who wrote the script, was one thing, right? Which we saw glimpses of throughout the movie, but was changed to make it, I don't know, more palatable for the youth market and thus ruined by the studio.
Right.
Or it was just a shitty script. Either way,
Right.
the only thing to talk about was my original hypothesis. So you can go down the, well, it said story by route all you like. It gets us nowhere.
Okay.
Good. All right. So,
Your
Jeez.
hypothesis.
right. So the whole movie is essentially and I wish I knew if this was post or pre-screen. But
I'm
it's-
assuming pre, right?
So it's a pre-screen but post New Nightmare, and it's slap bang in the middle of those years where kind of two things are happening simultaneously. First of all, horror movies are kind of on the decline because they don't really kind of come back full force until Scream. But secondly, you're in the moral the first wave of kind of moral majority political correctness in the 90s, where there's a lot of hand-wringing about, you know, Satanism and horror movies and heavy metal
whole
music
Child's
and all
Play
that
thing.
stuff. Child's Play, there's the Motley Crue thing over here.
Was that in the 90s?
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay.
And this movie reads to me like someone wrote either a story or a script that was a clever think piece, a clever ironic think piece on the damaging effects of computer games and horror movies on the youth of today, while very knowingly using the tropes of existing horror movies. A Freddy Krueger style, charming but sadistic apparition, you know, point of view slasher killings, gore, nudity, teenagers, all the rest of it, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's what the concept was. That's kind of what he was trying to do.
Right, okay.
And throughout the making of it, and we'll never know whether it was the studio having seen the dailies or whether it was the director or whether it was Furlong or whether it was whoever, I don't know. But through the making of it, they were like, you know, in order for this message to get across, we have to make this like a hip, young, you know, what's happening to me, killer horror movie kind of thing. And so whatever the original intention was gets pulled in two directions.
Right.
And you end up with what you have. Also, if the original concept is what I think it is, there's two problems with it. A, that's a really tricky tightrope to walk if that's your intention. Secondly, nobody wants a fucking moralistic, finger-waggy, you're wasting your brain on this shit movie. Nobody wants that. Right. Certainly not the youth that they're aiming it towards. And thirdly, there isn't enough of a central concept that is scary enough to do any of it well. Like, it literally falls apart on all levels.
It also has no consistency in its execution. In the first one is like a point of view killing. Then the second one, he doesn't remember it. And then the third and fourth ones are like, why does he even need a computer game? He's just running around doing stuff.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing, is it needs to come from a computer game because, you know, that's what was destroying the youth of America at the time. And because the whole end of the movie, essentially, is Furlong realizing it's a dream,
which is like
one of the hokeyest.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. I can't believe they did that.
Well, they did it because he realizes it was a dream. He realizes he didn't kill anyone. He realizes the computer game was just like a hypno thing. And he realizes he's been wasting his life. Like, the end of the movie is literally him destroying everything that he's built in his little attic room.
Right.
So he destroys the TV, destroys his game console, he destroys the lamp. The lamp was obviously destroying America.
Yeah. How are you supposed to survive
with lamps lying around? You know what I mean? How can I focus on my homework with lamps lying around? I've got to destroy the lamp. He destroys his intercom, destroys everything, right? And then he goes out with his friend to the party, which normally he would have been missing because he was such a, like, you know, quirky loner, except he wasn't. He was just the most boring child you ever met. And that's, you know, that's the other problem, is that they cast Furlong with this idea of, like, well, Furlong's hot right now because of the whole Terminator 2 thing. And, like, in Terminator 2, he plays this sort of, like, loner, runaway, grungy kind of character, and like that's what this character needs to be. But whatever Cameron did with him in Terminator 2 in order to kind of portray that, in this the director just doesn't, like, in this it should be like a nerdy goth loner weird, it should be like the male version of Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice, and instead it's fucking Edward Furlong.
Doesn't he literally wear beige throughout the whole movie?
Sitting around, wearing like the JCPenney beige teen collection. He wears the same fucking outfit for 3 days, which just makes you think, like, every time his, you know, would-be girlfriend comes over, she would be like, wait, you still wearing that shirt that's 7 times too big for you? By the way, you're not fooling anyone, you look 12. He literally spends the whole movie looking like the kid at the end of Big when they shrink back down and are still wearing adults' clothing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, anyone watching this with a desire to see an actual horror movie, basically by the end of it,
you're told by the screenwriter, the producers, and the filmmakers that you're a worthless loser who should deserve to go through something horrendous in order to realise that there's life outside.
What was all the stuff with his mum? Because at the beginning...
Well, that works twofold.
But...
One, to give him the limp, right? Which is a constant plot point because he's committing murders and he has to cover up the fact that he has a limp.
Despite the fact that when he goes to clear up the footprints, he makes about 1 billion footprints.
Right. But secondly...
He's literally walking through a muddy building site, which couldn't be more footprint friendly if you tried.
Secondly, someone said, A, there's got to be a reason why the kid's alone.
Right, okay.
And B, there's got to be a reason why the kid's messed up. Killing the mum does both those things. It means that the dad can be away on business. It's a little far-fetched if both parents are away on business all the time, right? So the dad can be away on business. The mum dying means that we don't have to worry about the mum through the movie, and it gives Furlong a reason to be mopey and awful.
But it was such a visceral flashback.
Right, well that's the other thing.
If you expect it to come back into play, like he sees something or what, you know what I mean? Like, it feels to me like the end of the movie is super weird. But I can imagine that in whatever the original script is, as he's about to kill the girl, right? Something about her, right? Triggers some memory of his mum. You know what I mean? Like some reason for that ought to be there at the beginning.
The mum is a plot device.
No, I get the, don't get me wrong, I get the mum is a plot device, but you can just as easily have that plot device with, hey, didn't your mum die in a hideous car crash? Yeah, but I don't like to talk about it. Fucking done. But it starts off with flashback Furlong, right? In a hospital with a really gory, horrible
leg wound,
which says to me, I'm just saying, you don't usually put that kind of detail in at the beginning of a movie unless it's going to have some relevance later, particularly in a horror film, particularly in presumably what's supposed to happen, as you rightly point out, right? He's supposed to get drawn more and more into the game, and presumably as well, like start to enjoy it a bit. Like that's presumably why they wrote this film like that, and then something snaps him out of it at the end. And in the film, it's her telling him that she loves him, which is completely ridiculous.
No, I don't think... See, I didn't watch it like that. So, I know I made the joke about Doctor and the Medics, but basically...
Actually, for any Star Trek Voyager fans, he looks more like...
Right, the little...
What if Neelix was the keyboard player from an 80s...
Spandau Ballet.
Spandau Ballet, yeah.
Right. Yeah, he literally looks like he could have been in fucking Depeche Mode or...
if he was an annoying alien.
Doctor and the Medics.
He's not bad, though. Whoever the guy is playing. He's not a bad character.
He's alright. I mean, he's got every cliche under the sun, but yeah, he's alright.
At least he gives it some, you know...
Yeah, he does. He's about the only watchable thing in it.
Yeah.
Frank Langella
is even sleepier than Furlong.
I know, which I didn't even think was possible. Like, there's literally a bit where Langella's partner is killed.
After Langella specifically says to people,
like, don't carry a gun.
guns.
So you're like, well, now that they've accidentally killed his partner, all hell's going to break loose. And Langella goes, who wants to turn his one? And I was like, sorry, what'd you say, Langella? Who wants to turn his one? I'm like, could speak up? Like,
well, how about you start fucking arresting people for shooting? That is actually a crime to shoot a police officer, even if you didn't mean to.
So, that's the whole thing. Anyway, quickly with the movie.
Quickly? We've just been talking about it.
Rumours... No, but I need to fill in the plot so everyone knows what's going on. Rumours abound about this computer game Brainscan that is like the worst thing ever. There's an advert for it in Fangoria magazine with a telephone number.
Quick question. You said Fangoria part-funded the Bruce one, right?
Yeah.
So presumably they do the same for this one?
I don't know, potentially. And it's another thing why... let me finish the plot, because there's a weird thing about the gore that you mentioned earlier that I want to bring up as well. So yeah, there's a telephone number, Brainscan, blah, blah, blah. Furlong, on the advice of his annoying friend, calls the number. Brainscan, turns out that it's the ultimate experience in terror, only that it's not.
Furlong is hypnotized and appears to kill a guy by stabbing him multiple times and sawing off his foot. No explanation as to who the guy was or why or whatever. Anyway, wakes up the next morning, turns out it's real. Then this guy shows up who looks like a doctor and the medics, a keyboard player, Spandau, whatever. Crawls out of the TV and is all like, I'm Trixie, blah, 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 blah. Follow me into worlds of boredom. And for whatever reason he does, we don't see the second go round the game, but it turns out that he's killed his best friend, the annoying one. Everyone mutedly cheers in the background because he was that annoying. But this continues, and then it turns out it was all a dream, and then Furlong goes back to his life. What's really weird about two things. First of all, the first two scenes have lots of gore in them. First of all, the car accident, and then secondly, the first murder. The first murder is also hilarious because the guy, after he's been stabbed like multiple times in the back, is flailing around his apartment with a sheet sticking in his back because the knife is between his shoulders with the bed sheet. So he's running around with this bed sheet on his back, and clearly someone has said to this actor, "Don't worry about any of the props in the room. They're all just like fake props. Do whatever you want." And the actor like literally staggers from chest of drawers to shelving unit to bed to whatever.
He hits pretty much everything.
Knocking everything off in the most humorous of ways. It's hilarious. But then there's a very, very gory scene where like he's sawing, everything's great now, where he's like sawing off his foot and blood's going everywhere and blah, 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 blah. Then it's like weirdly bloodless for like the rest of the movie.
It does feel like something happened at that point because you had the first person point of view, you had the gory killings. There was a plot there. There was an idea that he turns the game on and he gets sucked into his world. Now, presumably, this is what I think it didn't make sense is. At that point, the only thing that makes sense in terms of plot, right, is for him to be drawn more and more into this thing. In other words, like he hates it, but where you got to clear up the mess, you don't want to get caught. Hey, come on, you kind of enjoyed it, right? Right, that kind of thing, like living vicariously.
The other thing would be, the other way to tell the story would be, the way I thought it was going to happen,
right,
was that he would be playing this computer game a few times, like it was an actual computer game,
right,
and it wasn't until like the fifth or sixth killing that he suddenly finds out that wait, this is actually really happening, right? Like that's what I thought the plot was. So when after the very first killing, it turns out that not only is the killing real, like he finds out almost immediately, but that the killing is local, which is also like bonkers. Because if the whole point, like at one point, Trickster
McGee,
Spandau McGee says, what do horror movies really mean? They don't mean anything, do they? It's just like, it's all about just the fear, right? That's a screenwriter going, by the way, none of this is going to fucking add up, so don't even bother trying to work it out.
You're right, yeah.
Like, Trickster's not given a... Because on one hand...
Yeah, there's no mythology for him. There's no, like...
Right.
I was expecting to be like, when he looked at him on the screen, he was like, oh, look at that thing on the screen that shows me how to defeat Trickster.
Well, the mythology should have been, the more I kill people, the more Trickster is fed, like fed souls or something, right?
Right.
Which means it would have been advantageous of Trickster to both A, not reveal the killings to Furlong right away, and B, to keep him in the dark long enough that he keeps killing, and then also to get to the point where he starts to enjoy the killing. He can, like, there's an actual story there where you could like build it up, where it would be much more believable that even once Furlong found out that these people were really dying, that there would actually be a conflict in him about wanting to both continue the game and not want to kill any more people. Like, that would actually be something dramatically interesting, while at the same time having this character who is incredibly good at talking people into stuff showing up.
Plus, very quickly, the other screenwriting credits that he has show a man who is not particularly fond of the happy ending. If anything, he likes things in Denver New Dead. the whole point about the movie is they're all going to die, and then what happens is they all die. Like, even though the screenwriting rules say, even though they think they're going to die, you figure out a way for them to pull off some last job or whatever.
Right.
But they don't do that. They stubbornly don't do that. And in 7, they don't catch the killer. He gives himself up. And they don't foil his plans. He gets everything he wanted exactly as if. So he plays with the form and the expectations in order to say something, maybe not necessarily profound, but certainly reasonably shocking for anybody like versed in Hollywood, whatever, right? So, in other words, watching this guy, this kid, doing these killings and actually start to enjoy it, it's like, well, I guess, yeah, there's like, that's believable. If that was actually a thing, you can imagine giving them like a guilt-free way to get into that world. Right. Maybe they get, I'm all done, thanks, mate.
And maybe, you could still
maybe they get a taste for it.
You could still have the underlying message that, you know, horror culture and computer games are corroding America without it being slammed over your head at the end of it. Because the mere fact that having played this computer game for, like, let's say 2 months and potentially killed 50 real people or whatever it is, if he suddenly started to realize that but couldn't stop playing the game, like, that's, you know, that's like the creation of a serial killer, but through the damaging things, you know, through the very computer games that at the time America was saying created serial killer. You know what I mean? Like, violent movies and violent computer games create violent children, right? So you could have still had that without him waking up at the end being like, no, I choose life. Like,
so many of the plot points had like the grubby fingerprints of producers trying to get the movie made they want to get made. Things like the blood in the fireplace.
Right.
That's such bollocks.
Right, of course.
And it doesn't even serve any purpose. It's like, well, the cop's got to do something. Like, the cop, there has to be like law and order. The cop has to be in control or whatever. You know what I mean?
But it wasn't even that. What it was is, this was the other thing that was really frustrating. So the computer game, each round has a timer that's less than the other one.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
It was 1 hour, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, and 15 minutes, right, for each of the rounds. That was set up as a tension device, especially the one where he's like running around and there's the mob chasing him and blah, 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 blah. It was meant to be like, if he doesn't get back to his house or whatever, he's going to die. However, the director never flashes back to the literal clock ticking down. So you're like, well, I don't know how much time he has left, and I don't even know if anyone in this movie really cares about the whole timing device.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, is it's all... The fact that he finds out that he's really killing people with the first one, right, should negate, like, the rest of the movie. Like, he should just be like, well, I'm not doing that again. Done. Right? And I don't care who this guy is showing up in his Steven Seagal coat and his fucking stupid hair. I'm just going to be like, what are you going to do to me? Like, what? You're going to, like, I don't know, twiddle your fingers at me or play a mean riff on a keyboard? Like, bring your Moog out. Let's see what you can do. But, like, ultimately, having that as the reveal after the first murder, you're like, well, if anyone else would be like, so wait, I'm a killer? All right, well, I don't want to do that again. Even if you, with your punk hairstyle, go, oh, don't worry about it. You're like, no, I will worry about it, because I apparently stabbed a guy multiple times.
And also, it's like, you've got to get rid of the witnesses. But the witnesses were all things like, no, he knows that you played Brainscan. Well, he didn't witness me doing anything else except playing a computer game.
Right.
And no one's going to believe that the computer game led to anything. If I went to the cops right now and said...
Right, so then it becomes even weirder, and I was going to point this out. It then becomes even weirder. Trickster is trying to get him to continue to play the game, although seemingly has no reason to continue to push him to play the game, because it's not benefiting Trickster in any way, other than his, I don't know, Machiavellian idiocies. But by doing so, in the second one, he like gets him to leave a whole bunch of evidence. He gets him to like kill another person who's local. Not only that, but someone who's literally his best friend. So literally he can be tied to him, right? In the third one, he calls the police up and like gives them a fight. So I'm like, so wait, is Trickster trying to get him caught? But if he gets him caught, he can't continue playing the video game. So what's the point in that? Like, none of it adds up. Like, and the
Trickster
the whole...
doesn't seem to me to be like an Andrew Kevin Walker thing either. If you think of it as, right, if you think of it as a script where, like you say, there's a troubled teen, right, a kind of a black trench coat kind of a teen, right?
Totally
With all
should
this
have been
like
that,
yeah, like all this like rage and whatever. Watches horror films, listens to heavy metal, is a loner, bullied at school or whatever, right? And then he starts playing this game. And it's all first-person point of view, and he can't see himself. It's just like I'm experiencing what it's like to kill him. There's some connection I'm having with the computer that is allowing me to, and eventually he comes to discover that it's real, and then he gets caught up in it. And actually, it turns out that he kind of likes it. He can't stop, and then something to do at the end with the girl he likes, but also kind of hates, right? Because presumably, if he's a weird loner and he lives next door to a beautiful girl, she's gonna think he's a weird fucking loner, right? There's not going to be any great. This is not Romeo and Juliet here.
But she doesn't. She loves it.
Right, but in this movie, but in the actual, I'm saying in the Kevin Walker thing, and presumably something at the end with the mum, maybe. Who the fuck knows? But having like
way too much on the mum.
No. I'm just saying. It doesn't matter. I get it, but I'm just saying something that makes sense is that guy's script. Having like a weird, jokey, like horror movie, how do we make this get to 5 sequels, right? You've got to have like your character, your Freddy, your Jason, your Puppet Master, whatever. So and we don't really get this whole brain scan. We don't really get how that works. And Kevin Walker's like, it doesn't fucking matter. It's like you watch the TV and you get hypnotized. How difficult is that? You know what I mean? How difficult is to have some whirling fucking circles on the TV and boom, you're hypnotized, done. We don't need to fucking explain it because we won't even get it anyway. But no. What if there's like a magical elf in the TV? Yeah, and Kevin Walker, at a certain point in the script, in the process, he clearly loses all control of what is happening. And then, as you say, it becomes like a bunch of things that don't in any way make sense in order to get to this point. Because as you rightly point out, it seems to me the only way that it makes sense as a movie is if produced like, this is pretty good, I reckon we can get like 4 or 5 sequels out of this if the trickster bloke. So we've got to have like because then it's like, and then now he's popped up in fucking Pittsburgh or whatever, trickster goes to Manhattan, you know what I mean, like whatever. If the kids are kind of like undamaged by it, but also kind of not, I don't know. It doesn't. But that's the only way that the movie makes sense.
But like none of it. The other thing is that, and I'm not saying like in every movie you have to love the protagonist, but it certainly isn't helped by the fact that Edward Furlong at this age, at this point, cannot act for beans. No. He cannot. He's not even a convincing teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. He's not good.
He's really bad.
Two-speed Furlong is not good.
Yeah, but and he's not good at either speed.
Right.
But even before Trickster and Brainscan and whatever, even before all that comes into his life, right? What do we know about him? Right? He likes horror movies. He has the most annoying friend in the world, who even he is not particularly into, it seems. And 3, he actively videotapes a girl who lives opposite him undressing, right? So already, I mean, outside of the horror movie thing, and even again, he doesn't even seem that into. Also, can we just talk about the interaction he has with the principal, where the principal's talking about erections? It's like so fucking weird. Anyway, he's already a loathsome toad before the movie even begins. Then Trickster shows up and all this other stuff starts happening, and none of that makes sense. Then there's this line about like, well, horror movies, they don't have to make sense as long as they're scary. And I'm like, all right, then be scary. And it's not scary. So I'm like, even if you go, why are you sitting around in the diner trying to dissect Brainscan? It's clearly idiotic, right? I go, fine, but at least make it scary. And if you're not going to make it scary, make it gory. And it was gory for about 30 seconds, and then stopped being gory for 90 minutes.
But there was a lot of tension in the... No, there wasn't any tension.
No, there wasn't any tension. So you had...
no internal logic.
You had... Well, no, but there was meant to be tension with the time keeping. There wasn't.
Because it meant nothing. So what happens if I run out? Well, then you don't complete the game. And what happens if I don't... Because that's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the original script was. Presumably. Because if the tension is, well, sure, you can stop, but if you stop, then whatever, like... I turn you over to the cops, or like something. Because I think in there is something to do with the only way you get clear of this first murder is if you keep playing the game. That's the logic. The only way you get clear is if you keep playing the game. But that was so obviously not true. If you just like you said, if you just stopped, it would have been nothing. And I get that he's like a kid and so he's like easily confused or whatever. But then that was never. It's every time he does, literally every time he puts like the disc in the CD-ROM in the fucking thingamajig, it should be like, well, so what are the stakes? Why are you doing this?
Right.
Because if I don't do this,
well,
they get caught.
They
like,
were hoping.
There's a witness.
They were hoping that.
Well, who's the witness? I didn't. They
were hoping that Furlong's, acting ability and magnitude would let you see the difficulty that he was having with going through with all this. But it didn't. There was even a bit where like he's genuinely meant to be shook up about the death of his friend, and nothing. There's like not even a drop of like sadness on his face.
No.
They can't even go, Furlong, pull a slightly sad face. There, okay, hold that, and I'll just shoot a frame of you doing that face, and that will communicate something to the audience. The director just goes, Furlong's got this, and we're all like, no, he hasn't. And then he just keeps rolling with it.
I thought that this might be a good juncture to just mention what John Flynn, the director of this film, actually said about this film, which might give a little more insight to some of the things that we're talking about. John Flynn later recalled, the main interest for me was the trickster character. So there's the first problem, which is described as a cadaverous Alice Cooper-like entity who materializes from a CD-ROM computer game. John Flynn says, the trickster was the core of the movie. No, he wasn't. And what attracted me to the script. We found this stage actor, T. Ryder Smith, to play trickster, and he was extraordinary. Eddie Furlong was a 15-year-old kid who couldn't act. You had to slap him awake every morning. I don't want to get into knocking people, but I was not a big Eddie Furlong fan. Well, John Flynn, not only do I think that you're sort of incorrect about the trickster character, that isn't what's interesting about the story, but secondly, yes, all right, Eddie Furlong couldn't act and you had to slap him awake every morning, but why didn't you try, I don't know, being a director and directing him, or, I don't know, using something with the camera or something with other actors or something to get a better performance out of him. We know it's possible. We had all seen Terminator 2. So sorry, John, some of the blame must land squarely with you.
It's absolutely mind-blowing. But this is how...
By the way, did you notice that in crime number 3 or whatever it was, when he goes over to like clean up the footprints, but it's literally underneath like evidence tape, and it's been marked out. And going, so the footprint ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it's like, oh, they're gonna spot it's a limp if I don't rub out the footprints, but they've clearly already done that. And you're right. If it's supposed to be like trickster's fucking with him to set him up, then okay, but then why? What's in it for the trickster?
Right. So, but then also he seems to get
maybe a little dessert tonight.
I'm actually good, thank you.
No, they will be all right. Thanks, mate.
So what's funny is there's actually a scene. So that same night when he's being chased by the mob or whatever.
Right.
One of whom is his like weird pervy principal,
right?
Who doesn't want them watching horror movies because it's like erections or something. There was some knob.
What I like is that he's allowed to start a horror club.
Yeah.
But he's in trouble for showing horror movies.
Yeah.
What's the...
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously, if they're 16, then they shouldn't be watching like really gory horror films, and that would never be a thing. And that would be their first
watching
question.
like black and white Hammer.
Yeah, but it was called like Death. But there was, in that opening like half an hour, there were some genuinely funny bits, funny lines, and interesting ideas.
Right.
And then it all just collapsed.
So during that night, he's being chased by the principal.
Sorry, yes.
The principal and him are wrestling at a building site.
Right.
And in trying to get away, Furlong...
Thanks,
thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much.
Furlong knocks a pipe or whatever, which sends the loosest scaffolding on the planet, mate. It's literally...
Covered in brick.
It's suspending aloft 10 rows high and 20 rows deep of bricks.
Yeah.
But there's no screws in it, mate. Knock one pillar and the whole thing comes crashing down. So anyway, he does that, kills the principal, and there's literally a close-up of him in the bushes. And I don't know if you noticed this, but they had like put fake tears in his eyes. And then later when he's talking to Trickster, he seems like really upset that he killed someone. But we're like, you killed someone the first time you played the game. Like, hadn't you already, like, realized that? Like,
and also, the principal thing was clearly an accident.
right.
Of all the things to get upset about, your
Right.
best friend, or even some random dude that you stabbed
Right.
in the back and sawed their leg off, that set you off on this roller coaster of terror.
Yeah.
In quotation marks.
Yeah.
Right? And instead, you're upset about like accidentally killing a person. Like, of all the things that have happened, this is the most mundane.
So here's the movie that it should have been. And I'm going to be as quick as I possibly can.
All right, go for it.
Right. Kid who's like you
Not
said,
Edward Furlong.
not Edward Furlong.
Not Edward Furlong.
Who's in a black trench coat, who likes horror movies, likes death metal, likes computer games, whatever.
Is a loner.
Is a
girl
loner.
Opposite.
Girl
Doesn't
opposite,
like him.
doesn't like him, etc.
Right.
Yeah. Her liking him is one of those things being like, this is going to be a twist. And I'm like, no, it's just creepy that a girl would be a peeping Tom on a guy who's already a peeping Tom on her. And somehow, weirdly, their peeping Tomedness like could potentially make them... But that's a weird subplot. Anyway, also, they're all meant to be 16 and there's clearly like a nude shot. And I understand like 80s, 90s, we weren't so... it
was a bit
worried
weird.
about
So I
this
was like,
stuff,
how old is
but it was-
Furlong in this?
And he said he's 16.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm like, ugh. So anyway, this is how the movie. Girl across the road doesn't like him. Only has one best friend who kind of understands him. Black trench coat, blah 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 blah. They hear about this computer game. It's the most gory, violent, blah 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 computer game ever, right? So he calls up Fangoria, signs away for it, whatever it is, right? He starts playing this computer game. The computer game is a first-person thing where you repeatedly, every time you put in the game, is like killing a different person, right? In a variety of like gross out, disgusting ways, right? Cut forward like 3 months. He's been playing the game every night. Like, he's getting paler, he's getting thinner, he's getting more angry. His grades have gone to shit.
He's
in
skipping school.
He's skipping school. Everything. Like, everything's going wrong in his life. But he's like, he has to just keep fucking playing the game, right? Let's say, for whatever reason, that when you play the game, you can get transported to wherever on the planet that you're killing people. You're not killing people in your own backyard. But let's say, for whatever reason, one of the murders attracts some news attention and it ends up wafting back to him. Maybe the first, like, some waft back to him and he's like, that could be, it couldn't be, maybe it plays with him, maybe it doesn't. But then one hits home where he's like, fuck, that was me, wait, what's happening, right? Then, just as he's like in a moral quandary about whether to continue the game, and he's trying to investigate whether this murder really was the same murder or not, Trickster can show up, or like a voice on the phone or something. Like, it doesn't have to be a fucking keyboard player
Doesn't have to be
from,
Neelix, Spandau Neelix.
you know, Doctor and the Medics. It could just be like some eerie voice or whatever. But the eerie voice uses every technique to get him to keep playing the game, right? So, it says to him, like, if you stop the game now, they can tie these killings back to you. Or if you stop the game now, then I'm going to, like, kill your mum. Or if I stop the game now, I'm going to, torture your pussycat. Whatever it is. Like, he just starts to use all these techniques, like, your dad's never coming back, if you stop playing the game, etc., 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 right? Eventually, obviously, the police catch up with him, blah, 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 and there's a trial at the end of the movie where they're like, Your Honor, the video games made him do it. And as he's being, like, I don't know, dragged to his cell or whatever, he's like, it's not the games, it's Trickster. It's not the games, he's still out there. It's Trickster, he's still out there, or whatever it is, right? And then he's just like, well, you make him 18 instead of 16, so he can be tried as an adult. Maybe even get him on death row or whatever. And like, because they're able to tie like multiple murders to him, or something happens that pulls him all back. And the whole twist at the end of the movie is, the video games made him do it. But actually the video games didn't make him do it because there was a supernatural element to it. That way you could still have the moral, like, the video games made them do it bullshit, but you could also tie it to like the supernatural thing of being like, no, it wasn't video games, I was being played by this whatever, right? And that's the movie. I mean, very loosely, but that's broadly what the movie should have been.
I guess I have a few problems with that.
You could have had your Freddy killer, you could have had your moral outrage, you could have had your murders, but also it could have been a slasher film where you saw lots of gruesome death.
I can't help feeling that it may not have been that different in structure. In that it may have been, it is just the first murder. Because I can't help feeling, there's two things about that first murder that are interesting, right? One is, it was like a balding, middle-aged fat guy in pajamas, which was odd.
And a stranger to him.
Right, but I remember thinking, if it's going to be like some kind of gory thrill ride or whatever, like it would be, you know, in every slasher movie ever, like a girl or a woman or whatever, right? In this case, it's like a fat balding. Oh. And then the chopping off the foot thing is like, you need a weird souvenir, you need to make it special, you know, something kind of whatever.
Well, I think that is because the idea is
it's supposed to be
the making of a serial killer through.
Well, no, but I think it's even simpler than that. I think it's that they need a simple way to go. No, that was you, because like, you know, and the way it's like, oh, he's in the news bulletin, it's like, oh, you just saw the foot off. It should be something else. Like, he finds out, he investigates, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
But it's also.
But I can see.
If Trickster is creating serial killers. Mm-hmm. Then taking like some random souvenir is like a serial killer trait as well. But like Trickster's not trying to create serial killers, he's trying to get Edward Furlong caught. That's where it doesn't work out. If Trickster's modus operandi was like, I'm creating serial killers through the use of this game, that would at least be like a through line that could have been examined. But because he tries to get Edward Furlong caught, I'm like, then what's your point?
No, I agree. I mean, even I was going to say, I can understand just in terms of the motivations of the character, I get you did this murder, but you didn't know about it. However, so you've got two choices. Stop playing, that's fine, you can do that, but they're going to find out it's you. So the foot's in the fridge, it only happened a couple of doors away, there's these footprints that clearly you're limp, whatever. It's
maybe he stops for a while and Trickster starts like putting clues about the place that people almost find.
Well, you know what?
And then he's pulled back into the game.
Not even that.
To make it stop.
Not even that, right? In that first.
Even that. That's quite a good idea.
No. I like that. I'm saying in that movie. I'm trying to see how it might have originally been, and all I can think is that there is genuinely a witness. It's not his best friend. It's like a witness. Right?
You're still trying to work out what the original script
No, but I'm just there's some merit there. What I'm saying is, so then you've got a thing. It's like you did this killing, but you didn't know you were going to do it. So you have like, this is your moral quandary. This is why I'm the trickster. This is why I'm basically the devil, right? I'm giving you a choice. You can do the right thing, which is give yourself up. By all means, mate. Go in there. You can try and tell them that a computer game made you do it, but good luck with that defense, because like if you're going to admit you did it, you did it. Great. But if you don't, there's this witness, whoever it is, right? It could be anyone, saw you, and it's only a matter of time before they see you around the neighbourhood. You only live like a street away, and then go, it's him, or maybe they're like right now giving a sketch, whatever, testifying against you. So this is your choice. Give yourself up, and this all goes away, but you go to jail forever, or bump the witness off, and you get away with it, right? And they go, okay, but that's it, we're done. No 4 parts or anything. We're done after this, right? You could have been done after that first one, but you got sloppy, somebody saw you. So what do you want to do? And because he's like fucked up or whatever, you know, he's like trench coat. He's like, all right, I'll take care of the witness, and then it'll be over. I've seen those movies. You know, I mean, those movies where like characters make, you know, worse and worse decisions, right? So he goes off, kills the witness, comes back, right, and then Trickster's like, great, you're done. Yeah, unfortunately, when you're doing that one, you left a clue behind, like, and it's this thing, whatever it is. Right. So you have to go into the house, and you have to go and get that clue. But that's it, that's all you have to do. So you don't have to kill anyone else, you have to go back and get the clue. Oh, right, okay. He goes back and gets the clue, but it's his friend. It turns out he's left the clue, and his friend sees him, and then it's like, well, you killed 2 people, and now your friend's seen you. What are you going to do? You're going to kill your friend? Because it's got to happen now. You've got to be back, remember? That's where the timer comes in. You've got to be back in 5 minutes, or else you get turned in. Right. So you can't, like, go away and think about this later. What are you going to do? You can take care of it now? So he kills his friend. He comes back, and now he's, like, racked with guilt. He's killed 3 people. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then it's like... And then finally, at the end, it's like, unfortunately, when you killed your mate, guess, because it happened in your garden as you were coming back or something, guess who was looking out the window at the time? And it's like footage or whatever of the girl. It's like, so, but this is it, last one, you know, now you know how to do it without getting caught. Taking photos. Right, now you know how to do it without getting caught. So all you've got to do is kill her, and then you are free and clear, mate. 3 murders, okay, it's bad. I'm not going to lie to you, 3 murders is bad, but you'll be free and clear. just take care of her. That's it. So he goes up, breaks into a house, it's like fucking happened, and then something about, this is just my speculation, right? Something about the way she's lying, or a shadow, or a leg, or whatever, reminds him of his mum, and he snaps out of it, and he does the right thing finally, which is kills himself, or he hands himself into Langella, or something, and that's the end of the movie, maybe, or he fights Trickster, I don't know, whatever, but that's the only way that the film, as it's done, makes any kind of sense. But those things don't, just like you say, all the way through, the director doesn't cut back to the clock at any point. There's no feeling of the threat of time. He inexplicably doesn't have him go and murder the friend at all. Like, we don't even see that. It's like, well, that's going to alienate people, so let's just like cut that. Let's just not even do it. It's like, well, you did that. So what? Because in the first one, the whole thing is he's like, enthralled by the thrill of it. The second one, he just doesn't remember?
Right.
It's just so that's like, okay. And then the third one, it's like, well, now you're running around rubbing out some vague clues that I don't really get why that's important. And then you like accidentally kill somebody else and you're like racked with guilt, but that doesn't even work either. And then, there's a final witness, which is the girl who saw you walking back into your house like late one night. Well, that's not a thing.
Right.
Seeing me in my garden, walking into my house, is in no way incriminating.
Right.
And certainly is not enough for me to go into her room and stab her with some scissors.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
No, true. Now,
so that's all I'm saying.
Right, and I think what you've laid out is,
it's still not very good, but at least it has some internal logic.
What you've laid out is kind of what they were trying to do, only like you say, they did a really piss poor job of it. And then
I do think your thing about the director and Furlong's expressions is quite revealing, because you're right. There's a way of shooting certain parts of it where he's not being a terrible actor, but he is all the way through being bad. And you're right. That's like, and Cameron, who don't get me wrong, like I don't think Cameron's made a good film in a long, long time, but when he made good films like T2, he clearly knows how to handle his actors.
Well, he found a way to get Arnie to be, do a performance, and it was, everyone always is like, Cameron found how to use Arnie, put him as a robot. But if you watch like the first Terminator, yes, he's playing it as a robot, but there's a way that Arnie is doing it that is very like engrossing, rather than just being like, I am a robot. Like it's.
There's a lot of menace there.
He's pulled a performance out of someone who until then had not been.
Plus, like something relatively unique, like this idea of it looks like a person, but it's a robot, and it's not like because I can bound. It's like I have no moral centre. I have no.
That comes from Westworld, but yeah.
No, true. Yes, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
And I think Cameron's all but admitted that. But but no, in this, the trouble with your idea, like it just being this guy like pushing this guy into more murders, to some extent you're taking away the video game element, and you're taking away the outrage of like the video game made me do it thing that is in this movie enough to make me think someone somewhere along the creative line wanted that in there. The biggest like mistake out of the whole thing is when he's in the girl's room with the scissors, is then having Trickster show up, and then Trickster being like, he's like, who the hell are you anyway? And he goes, haven't you figured out yet? I'm you. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Then there's this like weird bit where he like eats Edward Furlong, which is just completely bizarre. But then Edward Furlong comes out from behind the bed with a slightly scarred left-hand side of his face. And then suddenly Trickster's back, and like none of that made a lick of fucking sense, and was just an excuse to be like, well, we could do these special effects that are a bit like Terminator 2. Should we do that? Like it was poor decisions every single step of the way. And
do you think they deliberately? Because I could be wrong, but was the security guy that caught Furlong in the building site the same security guy? It just looked like it.
I thought that for a minute, but no, it wasn't. Okay. It was a tubby security guy with a mustache, but it wasn't the twins,
right? That
have been in a bunch of stuff. But yeah, no. So disappointing, because it started out.
I did think it was going to be quite fun.
It started out like a cheeseball 90s teen horror movie, which could have been kind of fun. Yeah, and ended with this horrible like Daily Mail ending, or Daily Mail like
But I'm not even sure it was that, right? Because he hands the computer game off. In other words, when he hands the computer game to the principal, he's basically saying it is harmless.
No, he's handing it to the principal because he thinks that the principal will then reopen Horror Club. If the principal goes through a horrific experience, he might reopen Horror Club.
I thought it was just like, it's just a cheeky thing.
It could also be that. It could also be that he's like,
everybody's cheeky. It's just a cheeky Jake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they shouldn't have called it Brainscan. They should have called it
Cheeky Jake.
Cheeky Jake.
Yeah.
Also, Brainscan is like, they were like, how are we going to explain this whole thing? How on earth do you do all the things that this video game needs?
Also, if Fangoria did produce it, are you telling me that they produced 2 movies, one called Brainscan and one called Mind Warp?
What was Mind Warp? Was Mind Warp before this?
I believe so. Yeah.
And did Mind Warp do okay?
I don't think so. No.
Maybe they were like, well, Mind Warp did fine. To call it something like that.
Right, maybe.
Because there's no way that's like Kevin Walker saying.
It's
I like the name Brainscan.
Yeah, it was just disappointing, and I want to say that it was fun, but it got so much stuff wrong that it just wasn't.
It did. Furlong started to become insufferable. The plot started to become nonsensical. Langella started to become just like weirdly like, you hate being here. I've never seen anybody hate being in a movie as much as you hate being in this movie.
And he was in Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
And gave a more animated performance than that.
Yeah, he was bad. You're right, because with that first half hour, I thought this is actually going to be quite fun. It's a weird little story. This weird trickster bloke.
Well, not only that, but you've got trickster. You've got clearly somebody who can do gore effects. You've got this great setup where Edward Furlong could go around and murder a bunch of people.
In a kind of a giallo first-person, weird kind of a way.
And yet, you squander all that. Not only that, but like the whole thing's a dream anyway. So go fucking hog wild with it. Like in the middle of it, have him, I don't know, riding an alpaca and lancing a hobo through the face with a rake or something. Like do something.
It felt like it started off as an R-rated late night horror film, and then about half an hour in, it went, what if we actually tried to make a PG-13? Do you know what I mean? Like something else, like a not exactly a Fright Night, but because Fright Night's actually pretty gory and scary, but like something that's like, it's sort of like a teen adventure.
But I'm telling you, it's a script that was circulating around the same time as New Nightmare and Scream, all of which are the first waves of meta horror. Right. And this was a way to be like, how do we tell, what sadly becomes synonymous with something like Columbine, right? Like that's the 2 kids in Columbine, like were loners, they wore long black coats, like everything we're talking about is sort of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we tell a horror movie story about characters like that and blame all the things that we as like the, protectors of moral America hate? Heavy metal, children, life, How do we?
Because this thing about keeping showing Three Stooges episodes seemed to me to be like a comment on like violence and.
Well, because they were saying, well, this is as violent as anything should get. It should be like Three Stoogie comical violence, and that should be it. That's just about what the older generation at that time could cope with.
Because he never really did anything after 7 or Things Are Deadly Dead, right? Andrew Kevin Walker. Like,
I don't think so.
Writing that, I'm sure he did some script doctor work, but
I'm telling you, there is a dark, gritty boy becomes a serial killer because of video games movie that he wrote out there.
Yeah.
And dude, I know you're like saying, well, it's story by and then script by.
No.
But there's no reason why the script came first, and the reason why I'm saying that
I see what you're saying. Yeah. You change the script enough.
If you have, it's the way the Writers Guild of America demand people be credited. Andrew Kevin Walker will have had to have written over 25% to get sole credit on the movie of the actual script, so they have to prove that. But then beyond that, if you change the story, you could have a story by credit.
Yeah, you're right.
Someone else.
Yeah, you're right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if...
I think it was one of the producers was story by. I'm pretty sure.
I'm telling you, dude, that's what happened.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They got a gritty kid as a serial killer movie from Andrew Kevin Walker.
Because you have that, like, the Tarantino thing.
They got cold feet.
You have the Tarantino thing, right, of... how many scripts did he have? Like, Reservoir Dogs, Natural Born Killers, and True Romance were, like, 3 scripts that were all circulating at the same time. And as soon as he made Reservoir Dogs, Tony Scott bought True Romance, and those other producers bought Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Kevin Walker had 7 Things You Never Did and whatever the hell Brainscan was called before they got it.
Right.
Video Game Killer or whatever. Video Game Nasty. Video Nasty, something like that, right? Video Nasty, there you go. And then they just, went, well, we've got Furlong. We can get Furlong. We can't have Furlong's like a hero, right? He's John Connor, so he can't be. We need like a bankable teenage star. It's 1994, so that's Edward Furlong.
Right.
He can't be like an anti-hero. So we've got to like family up a bit. We've got to make him a hero.
Right.
We can put him through the ringer.
What you really want is you want this movie to be made in 1989, and you want to cast Corey Feldman in the role. Is what you actually want to do.
What you mean, like?
Or maybe 1987, like Burbs era Corey Feldman.
Yeah, that could work.
But doing more of his like damaged Stand By Me stuff, but in later years.
Yeah, that would work. I think that I could go for that. But I think you're right. I think that's how it happened because it's. And clearly they like the whole. Yeah, I like the idea of the kid. You know how like Hollywood producers think, right? So it's like, the kid in the video games, and he becomes a killer, and it's great. We love it. It's fantastic. Andrew Kevin Walker's like, great. I'll pocket the, $500 grand you're giving me, or whatever, right? And then it's like, but we've got Furlong now, so we need to kind of friend up. So this has got to go, and that's got to change. We definitely can't see him kill his best friend, so let's just lose that. And just like a bunch of because some of the directing was okay. Like some of the choices were kind of interesting. But
it looks like the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes were directed by someone completely different.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I would not be surprised, and I almost want to look into it, but I would not be surprised if one crew of people started making the movie.
Yeah, looks different.
Started making the movie, right? And having seen 10 minutes of it, the puritanical, middle-aged producers or whatever went, whoa, can't use any of this. Like, don't keep making this. You're gone. And replaced it with some people they knew from church.
Yeah, you're right. What would happen if someone had, if the wrong producers had taken a look at 7?
Right.
And gone, what do you mean they don't solve the crime?
Yeah.
They're policemen? Yeah. There's a serial killer? Yeah. And they don't catch him? No. Bumsy gives himself up. All right, but they foil his plans, right? No, the whole point of the movie is that his plans, everything goes off and he gets exactly what he wants, even though it's sick and fiendish. Although, by the way, it might not be. It might be what we deserve because we're all scum. You know what I mean? Well, things you done when you're dead. Imagine the wrong producer got hold of things you do. What do you mean they don't live? No, they have to come up with a scheme, right, that gets them out of the pickle that they're in. It's like one final job and they all end up happy at the end. That's what happens, right? That's the exact opposite of that. Or do they try a scheme, it doesn't come off and it's tragic? No, they don't even try to do anything. They just make their peace with the fact that their lives are over. We're not giving you money to make that.
Right.
You know what I mean? They would yank it and replace it with Phyllis from church, who did a photography course last summer. You know what I mean? Right? And that's what, when you watch those Andrew Kevin Walker films, you do think, how did they get away with this? How did this get made? And Brainscan is what happens if Andrew Kevin Walker gets rumbled, presumably. Do you know what I mean? They come in, somebody walks in, because there's also weird things that I go, why would you leave a Canadian macaroni and cheese in the freezer? Clearly it's supposed to be small town America, and you must have filmed in Canada because they had the macaroni and cheese with 2 languages, English and French, macaroni cheese and la fromage macaroni or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's Canada. So how disinterested in the film you're making would you have to be to go, you can see that it's Canadian macaroni and cheese underneath the fur. Who cares? You know what I mean? Right? It's the rubber foot in a freezer. It'll take literally 5 minutes to. If you just want to cover up the French with the foot, we're fine with that too. I can give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even something like that, it's my lucky charm, and then he does the Lucky Charms thing. Oh, they'll never get my Lucky Charms. Just said, It's your Lucky Charm. It doesn't work. It's
Right.
a different thing.
No, I mean all of it.
Charm and charms. It's not the same.
What's annoying is I'm sat here wishing. Oh, next time someone asks me
Yeah.
what because there's always this thing about remakes, right? Start remaking.
What film should be remade?
Start
Yeah.
remaking the good movies.
Remake the bad
Find
ones.
the bad ones
Yeah.
and remake them how they should have been made originally. Brainscan is one of them.
Plus, yeah, you could make it like a 90s period piece, right? Everybody's grungy. There's that whole like pre-Columbine trenchcoat mafia thing of like, their work. Because I remember I went to school with like the kids that wore long trench coats and like leather glove on one hand and listened to heavy metal music were fucking weird and dangerous. Like not bad guys, but just like not
Yeah,
right.
the only trouble is if you remade this how the script was originally, you would be siding with, the Republican moral majority of.
I don't know that
computer
Kevin
games
Walker
that-
writes those kind of scripts though. I think it's more likely to be your thing of like the video games. It's like if there's a point, which I think is what you were saying before. It's like it's not the books that are evil or the video games. They're just a delivery system for like people's thoughts and people's desires,
Right.
and the way people interpret them and what they do. Like, 'cause that seems to me to be like if there is like a message underneath this like garbage, it's about the choices you make when confronted with these things. Do you enjoy them and are you entertained by them? Are they a release for you? Okay, but don't. It's like enjoy a slasher film, but don't
Be a slasher.
imagine yourself
Right,
as the
right, right,
slasher
right,
and
right,
get a thrill out of that.
Right.
That's not the point of slasher
Right.
film. It's like
Yeah.
there's a way that we can all it's like there's a way we can enjoy things, everyone, without ruining it. We don't have to ban something
No.
because of like the ill effects. It's like we have to deal with why people are like identifying with these things in that way. There's something there to be talked about. Anyway,
And with that, we close another door on 8 years.
8
of
years.
the afternoon dial.
8. I like watching this. I like watching the screeners too because I feel
Right.
like it's like for better or worse, it's a part of your of the diner. It's a part of your business that you are a website and a podcast that reviews films that other people don't.
Right.
Like everyone review fucking Mortal Engines, but nobody review Brainscan.
Right.
And like that's what makes us a little bit special. And I do think we should keep doing that.
Yeah.
And the movies that you get at the screeners are particularly those things. They are like lost films, the first time on Blu-ray or whatever. It's not like, and here's the 87th version of Evil Dead 2. It's like,
Right.
here's a movie that Bruce Campbell made that he forgot happened. Because
Right.
he was only in it for 5 minutes in the background. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Bowfinger and Chubby Ray.
I love that when Spielberg remade War of the Worlds, he basically made Chubby Ray. He was like, wait, sorry, how did you say the aliens came back down to Earth? In the weather? Isn't that just Chubby Ray?
Yeah.
That when anyone says that they like the Tom Cruise Spielberg
I like
War of
the Tom
Worlds,
Cruise Spielberg War of the Worlds.
how it is riddled with like massive inconsistencies and plot holes and problems.
I like it. It's a fun ride.
If the machines have been buried on Earth since like whenever, the 1700s or whatever, how come no one, when building like skyscrapers or whatever, hasn't stumbled across even a bit of it? The aliens come down in the rain. What? Half the time the aliens are collecting people up and turning it into the red weed. Other half of the times they're obliterating them. But then also there's some times where they've delicately laid dead bodies out in a river so that they can do some like dramatic photo of dead bodies in a river. What's the aliens' agenda here exactly? None of it makes a lick of fucking sense.
No, that's true.
And I wouldn't mind, but you had one of the greatest novels of the 20th century lying right there to work from. And instead you just wank all over it like a filthy child.
Personally, I enjoyed the...
Also, all the electricity stops working, and but Tom Cruise magically knows how to start a car. Fuck off. It was
What?
all awful.
Well, I liked it.
Awful.
I liked it.
Yeah, well, it was awful. It was awful.
All right, well, look, it's your podcast. You've been doing it for 8 years. I've been doing it for substantially less. So if you want to say that War of the Worlds is awful, I will stand by your right to do so.
I think I've listed reasons why it was awful.
I know.
And with that,
You get your way, finally.
yeah.
So what I am understanding about my fans and listeners is that they love for me to do extra work because it was overly resounding, if that's even a thing, overly resounding that people wanted an original song again about the movie. They miss the songs. Now, my Spotify results and my Bandcamp sales do not reflect this. Considering we have the Diner Ditties albums on Bandcamp, we have all the Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures albums on Bandcamp, and we have the Them What Make Movies, or songs about Them What Make Movies on Spotify. The original songs are apparently more popular than I thought based on those stats. So I have done it again. I have written an original song about the movie Brainscan. I can't claim it's the best song I've ever written. It isn't. But hopefully people like it. It gives someone a chuckle. And hopefully it encourages people to go over to Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures on Spotify, or the album Songs About Them What Make Movies on Spotify, or to go to bandcamp.com/Misc Plumbing Fixtures, or bandcamp.com/Diners Ditties, and download, listen to, purchase, or something, one of the songs they find there. Anyway, enjoy this, the Brainscan song, and thanks ever so much for making this an awesome 8 years. a novel I